Wednesday morning. You're tuned into the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. Ayokunmi, kick your record right here. It's that time to take a look at the papers and jump into the headlines making the rounds. This is freshly pressed. You know how we do. And if you don't, I'll clue you in. No worries. It's going to be the stories. We'll get analysis as well. And we'll take your reactions, your thoughts, your opinions. We love to hear from you each and every single day that we get on the show. So please send those messages into us on WhatsApp on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 0981. That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join the live stream on YouTube if that is your bag. We're live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Joining me this morning to take a look at the stories, give their analysis perspective as well. Lakunle and Devoe are in the building on Zoom, that is. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, all our listeners. Hey, we are now in the groove of 2025. I hope everybody's getting on well. Let's do today's Zoom.
Indeed. Good morning, Devoe.
Morning, world. Morning, Lagos. AY, Lakunle, Eku, charges, bills, levies, taxes.
Yes, so charges, bills, levies, and taxes. That is a story we'll probably talk about tomorrow, but a very interesting one that we need to keep our eye on at this point in time. I don't know whether there'll be levies and charges and taxes for the air we breathe. I don't know, even leaving our houses. Right now, I can't say, but we'll see how that goes. Anyways, Devo, let's begin our discussion this morning in Daily Post. This one, I don't know what to make of it. Now, the Senate came down heavily on the Nigerian police force, as the NPF, at the National Assembly complex over 3,907 missing assault rifles, as revealed in the 2020 report by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. Now, the Inspector General of Police, that's IGP Kayode Egbetokun, apologized to the Senate Committee on Public Accounts for failing to honor previous invitations to explain queries raised against the police regarding alleged financial infractions in the 2019 audit report. A lot more was said, but Devoe, this is a very concerning issue. I mean, the IGP apologizing for not showing up at previous invitations. Now, over almost 4,000 assault rifles missing from the armory. How worrying is this for you?
Very worrying, dramatic, and this story is actually a movie. And hopefully Nollywood will be able to pick it up, because I can't even believe what I'm hearing. The 4,000 is even from the 2020 reports. What it says is that since
Are you still there, though? Earth to Devoe, are you still there? Okay. Looks like Devoe is having some
comes up
issue.
only
Okay,
comes
Devoe,
up now.
you broke up.
Okay.
You broke up for a couple of seconds. We couldn't hear you
Can
for a
you
couple
hear
of
me
seconds.
now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I'm saying that this is a movie, that the 4,000 is just from 2019. It's actually something that's happened as far back as uh whereby 2018, whereby over 170,000 firearms were missing, of which 80,000 were AK-47s. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Now, the problem here is that the IG, yes, he wasn't around, and he appointed an AIG, Suleiman Abdul, to speak for him. And this committee, people must know, is the Senate Committee on Public Accounts. The drama began when they began to ask him what happened, and he started saying that they started telling him that based on the audits, firearms were lost at the training institutions, at the police formations, at the police commands, and some of the mobile force units. And at the end of the day, he was only able to account for 18 firearms out of 4,000.
That is
Okay?
ridiculous.
Apart from being ridiculous, now, in them asking him to give a better response, he then called for a closed door session. And about four senators rejected the request for a closed door session. One of them, first of all, said this is a public accounts session. That's the chairman of the committee, that there's no room for closed door sessions. All right. You can see all the time when the Americans are doing their accounts reviews at the National Congress. Okay. It's
Mm,
televised.
that's right.
Everybody, that's part of what you call a democracy. Everybody is held to account. That is when you see the legislator doing their job. Because if they've approved money and at the end of the day you're coming to ask for more, people need to know, what did you do with the one that you had? So what are you calling for a closed door session so that people will not hear, right? Oshimole, who was also one of those that rejected, he said that the police are known for arresting and parading thieves like rats. So fine, in this same instance, parade yourselves and give accounts of where Nigerians taxpayers' money went to with all these missing firearms. And might you know, the bulk of these firearms are AK-47s.
Mm,
Now, it's not today that we knew that Nigeria had a small arms and major assault arms proliferation issue. Apart from
right.
those that are being smuggled, a large portion, and we knew this ever since the late Yaradua, when he did the deal in the Niger Delta to get the militants to drop their weapons. A lot of the cache that were found were traced to the military and the police. So most times when you hear our security forces not having adequate weapons, you know a direct conversation between where it's coming from and where it ends up at the end of the day, which was part of the reason America gave when they didn't want to sell us Apache helicopters, because they
Helicopters.
knew, yeah, that there was an issue here between public arsenals being lost, found, sold, smuggled into the hands of the illegal tyrants, terrorists, and criminals.
Right, right,
Now,
right.
the truth is this: they gave the AIG a soft landing because obviously his response was not tenable, that he should go and come back. But my point is this is a report that has been pending since 2017. How many other reports have gone not just unaccounted for, we've not gotten adequate responses to? I've always said it's not the amount of money we pay the legislator. Those fat cats need to show that they're doing their jobs. And it's not just to expose it, but after you expose it, what measures are taken to address the infractions that we now see? That is what you call governance. That is what you call accountability. And those who have fallen short of the law should be prosecuted. We don't want closed door sessions where brown paper bags are distributed and then everybody comes out and behaves like nothing happened. Nigerians, open your eye.
All right, Devoe. In one word, this is probably a silly question, but do you think any prosecutions or anything will come out of this?
I don't want to I want Nigerians to hold their legislator accountable. Something must come out. Something has to come out, because if this administration said that they will deal with corruption, and here we can clearly see corrupt tendencies are taking place. So we'll give them time. Let's follow up on the story and see whether the National Assembly does follow this to a logical conclusion.
All right, let's keep our eyes open and of course keep our hands firmly on the button to make sure that we do get something out of this. All right, moving on to our next story here. Into the Daily Post we go, Lakunle. Let us talk about the NCC and of course the telecom tariff hike issue. Now, the House of Representatives on Tuesday, that's yesterday, directed the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosunti Jani, and the Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, to suspend the impending hike in telecommunications tariffs until services are improved. Now, this decision of the House was sequel to the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved at the plenary on Tuesday by Ofoji Oboku. If you've been in Nigeria recently and you've been using various networks, you probably would have experienced terrible, terrible service. I had to deal with that over the weekend, and even till yesterday or thereabouts, when I had bouts of no service on my phone, even though I was seeing the service bar 4G and everything. Now, the House of Reps have directed the Minister of Communications to suspend the impending hike. Let the telecoms companies improve their services. Let them show that whatever hike they're going to actually do is worth it. But luckily, can't the telecoms companies argue that, hey, they need this hike in order to then improve the services? Or what do you think?
Um, did they say impending? I'm not sure the word impending fits into this story anymore because as of yesterday, there had been various comments, observations about one of the telcos that had actually done a 200% increment of their rates. I saw a few comments about the data service that used to be 2,000 is now 6,000 and so on and so forth. And then that for those that are not like that, people say that what they used to consume in 2 days before, they consume it in less than a day now, and so on and so forth. Having said that, right, don't let us forget that there was a meeting earlier on this year between the telcos and the ministry and the NCC, and the agreement was that they would do an increment not above 50%. Note the comment, the phrase, not above 50%, saying that the maximum you can go is 50%. So if any telco had done anything contrary to that statement, then it is illegal. And then in that regard, this call by the House of Representatives stands valid. That's part one. Then going to part two to say that they cannot do an increment unless they improve their services. I can't recall if the telcos have done a upward price review in all of the 25 years that they have been here. What was the rate of dollar to the naira when these services started in Nigeria? We were banking on volume to they were banking on volume to be able to meet up with the various increments, various crashes of the naira. Many of the things they do are benchmark in dollars. Many of the things they use to do their services, the towers, the diesel that they buy, the maintenance of those towers, the equipment that are in those cell sites, the security of it, continuous repairs of those things. Let's even leave the service itself alone. To erect a cell tower in Nigeria today, you first pay local government, you pay state government, then you have to service the non-state actors as well, all from these same rates that they've carried for an upward of 20 years. Three, now, when we look at it globally, holistically, tell me what service, good or service, have we had as consumers in Nigeria today that the price remained the same as it was just last month? This industry, yes, we know how important it is now because right anyway, all of us used to say that how did we survive pre-1999 when we didn't have free access to phones as we do now have and all the services that has now come with it. As important as it is, this industry or this sector of the industry appears to be the only one that is so straitjacketed this way that of their own volition, they cannot make these calls. Okay, so if they cannot make these calls and they have spent 11 years asking for an opportunity to even review the prices of their services, and we are where we are, and this is we are still saying that they need to show that the service will improve. The service will not improve if they need 1,000 naira to make the service improve, and they are not making 200 naira. Where is the money they are going to use to make the service improve? Yes, people might argue that some of us are speaking from a position of privilege. Yes, it is, and it is not done to spite anybody else. But the reality of it is that these guys, they keep a lot of people in their employment directly. They keep a lot of people employed indirectly. And the failure of these services will have an impact on those people whose livelihood today depend on them surviving. And one of the things they need to do to be able to survive, minus the fact that, okay, I have to continuously give my my shareholders, my investors good returns. Minus that, it does not suggest to me that within the current environment that our economy is today, that these organizations will survive for long if we keep pressing them down this way. I do not agree to a 200% increment, But we must give these people the leeway to be able to price their services properly so that we can enjoy the service that we want. Let me just make a digression and I will end it. Now, we have done with electricity distribution. They have twisted governments into increasing, reviewing their rates at least 3 times in the last 5 years. We now have the band. Every day people complain. The argument then was that their service will improve when they have the money. But we have
It
not seen
hasn't.
any improvement. Okay. So, but these guys are saying that they need to meet up with certain minimum standards to be able to do this. The dollar they are paying for access to internet that we use for our data is probably still the same dollar. Maybe it's, let's say, $1,000 per day they are paying. But guess what? We pay them back in Naira. Our 20 Naira, our 1,000 Naira today is not the 1,000 Naira of yesterday anymore to them in value. So
All
this is
right,
the reason they need to be able to meet up with their own dollar that they pay for the services they give us. And I think that there must be a way for us to arrive at something that can solve this problem, not this don't do it thing where we are.
All right, basically, some middle ground needs to be found between the providers and the consumers as well. Very, very important. I can understand your position, luckily, but like I said, whatever it is that Nigerians are paying, they need to get the value for it at the end of the day. Any which
Absolutely.
way you
Anyway,
actually split it. True story. Okay, let me sneak a message or two in before we get back into the stories. Z-Man from Bristol says all these anomalies we are experiencing are only symptoms of a greater disease. When you have criminals at the helm of affairs of a country, what do you expect? Idimapuza from Surulere says, in Nigeria, we suffer to make money and still suffer to spend it because policies are springing up everywhere and every day to make us continue spending endlessly. Upon poor telco services, we're made to spend more for poor services. APC government, we hail thee. All right, I see you, Mapuza. All right, Devoe, let's get back into the stories. Heading into the Vanguard right now. The Nigerian Customs Service, that's the NCS, has suspended implementation of the 4% charge on the free on-board FOB value of imports. The spokesman of the service, Abdullahi Maiwada, made this known in a statement on Tuesday in Abuja. Now, according to him, the FOB charge is essential to drive the effective operation of the services calculated based on the value of imported goods, including the cost of goods and transportation expenses incurred up to the port of loading. Can you walk us through this one, Devo? Let's make sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just government in its normal way. Currently, our revenue is down. So every corner, nook and cranny that they can find income or revenue, they will take it. So recently, Customs wanted to make a move to introduce an increase on the FOB charge to about 4%. FOB is free on board. That's usually when it's the process or the trade platform which goods are brought into the country. Now, the point here is that it's not a flat fee. It's a percentage of the amount of imported good that is coming in. So, for example, let's say an average within the last 5 years, annually, Nigeria has been doing about $80 billion of imports annually. Now, if you take a 4% charge on that, that comes to about $4 billion, uh, uh, which translates to almost 7 trillion naira for customs. Now, the points would be: is all of this recorded? Is all of this calculated for? And if they put a charge on the amount of what you import, what it means is that the ultimate charge, that's to the importer, the ultimate charge to us consumers will definitely increase because they will pass across the cost. So apart from the customs and the clearing agents screaming about life becoming more difficult for them, the president of the DG of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce did say that the implementation was abrupt. Luckily, the Minister of Finance, through the Wale Edu, the
Mm,
coordinating Minister of the Economy, has suspended the implementation. on the basis that more consultation needs to take place and an understanding in terms of how it's going to be implemented and what is involved. Now, just to give you a quick idea, in terms of imports, Nigeria imports a lot of petroleum products. That's
True.
gas and PMS, as you know, despite the fact that we have a local refinery. So it means there'll be an increase in those imports. We import a lot of wheat because of bread. We import a lot of cars. We import a lot of equipment and technology, vaccines, toxins that we use in some of our manufacturing companies.
We import a lot
Okay.
of everything.
And yeah. So, and Nigeria is a high import nation. So it simply means the 34 to 40% inflation that they're claiming we have now. If they implement this 4% increase, just know that 2025 inflation will creep into 50%.
But wasn't
So
that put
with
into consideration before thinking about doing this? I mean, if it could be see or if we can see that, why wasn't that put into consideration in the first place?
Yeah, well, customs said they were working in line with the laws that are available to them because this money is used to address administration at the ports. But the truth is, every cost center has an implication. So the coordinating minister of economy, in his rights move, has put a suspension to it. I think this conversation needs to be had because the truth is, like I said, ECU taxes, levies, bills, and taxes. You just can't tax Nigerians to death all in the name of we need to be able to carry our weight. There's a give and take in everything. You tax in some places, you levy in some places, and you subsidize in others so that there's a balance and an ability for Nigerians to breathe. What did the president say? Let the poor breathe.
Hmm. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, I say something all the time, and I will say it again. Just because you can does not mean that you should. And I'm glad that some common sense is being applied in this situation. Okay, Lakunle, before we get back into the next story, let me just take a message or two here. Damilola says, he's in Lagos Island, says, why is the government fixing, setting, and capping prices of a private telecommunications business? The government has no business doing so, and the telco should be allowed to set their prices as they deem fit. Okay. Rexy from Surulere says, funny how the same analysts that posit that Disco should not be able to increase charges if they can't improve service are doing the very opposite in this situation. Like electricity inputs are not dollar denominated as well. I'm confused. Wasn't Lakunle more or less advocating for the telecoms sector companies to be able to increase their tariffs because they haven't been able to do so, and they are dealing with these particular issues? Unless you are listening to another analysis being done this morning, Rexy, I didn't hear Lakunle take an opposite, should I say, stance on this one. Really. Veronica says, I thought the government said they want to reduce inflation and confusion, breaky bone. Oh my goodness, just cracked me up this morning. All right, okay, let's jump into the Vanguard this morning. And the Exam Ethics Marshals International has stated that 67% of Nigerian private and public secondary schools operate as examination magic centers, popularly known as miracle centers. I know them as special centers. It, however, encouraged parents to enforce the government's ban on levies in public schools by refusing to pay any illegal fees and reporting such to the authorities. Luckily, 67% is a ridiculous number. But what is even disturbing me here is primary schools are also involved. I haven't heard of this. I knew of secondary schools, but really primary schools are now involved in these activities. What is going on?
You have not heard of the Nigerian common entrance exams scandals that has happened over time. We've had these stories overtly and covertly. And it doesn't seem like anybody at all, government, parents, even the students themselves are willing to help in solving the problem. My perspective, one, here we have a generation of parents who, in quotes, I don't want to suffer. I don't want my children to suffer the things I suffered when I was their ages. So they got used to doing everything for their children, including, in some instances, doing their thinking for them. So to do this kind of thing, it's not difficult for those kind of people to do when they have the opportunity to do it. When there's when there's an asker, pardon my English, there'll be an answerer. So if there's somebody is asking, I can make your child pass by showing him the exams, the questions, if you pay me this amount. Because the parents want the child to pass. So don't forget, they've done everything for the child all the way to that point anyway. That's one. If you notice this report as well, it's not even talking to government. Thank God, for the first time in a long time, where a story is not about government, it's about us, the people, the parents, humans. Do not do this. Please, let us help these children to help themselves, right? The number, it means 7 out of every 10 schools that you know. That's what 67% means.
Because they're
Okay, let's
involved in this.
say 6 of every 10 public and private schools you know, this thing happens there. So it must mean then that it is very visible. And if it is very visible, who are we catching? I can tell you easily that WAEC, NECO, JAM, any exam body at all can tell you a school where this has happened easily. If you just take like maybe 10 of every 50 answer scripts and you see the way the questions are answered, you can easily tell that these people were coached to answer these questions right in the exam hall. It is not rocket science, right? So, and then this then brings us to the idea that we need to change our mode of examinations, maybe computer-based system, whereby the child does not see the question until he's seated in front of the computer. Of course, the question and the argument of power, have they used computer before, and all of that will come into the place. But what do we want? Do we want, because there's no power, because there's no computer that they've seen before, do we want these large-scale exam malpractices to continue? Do we want to continue to turn out children who were not sure of their academic capability? Of course, if that is the focus, what do we want exactly? So if we want to be able to say that the certificates we are issuing at the end of every exam is valid and is good to go anywhere, we need to thoroughly investigate this. First, as parents, make that decision that I will not partake in this. Second, as teachers, that I will not do this even when I'm offered. Third, as examiners, that I will not tolerate it. Then as government, that I'm ready to slam anybody that is caught. Don't forget, you know that there's a 21-year imprisonment for exam malpractices. There's a law like that. So since that law was enacted as a decree in 1984 or 85, how many people has been sent to jail using that law? So if we don't have those kind of records, it may be difficult to actually see that it actually works. And then those are the things we need to do to stop this thing.
Alrighty. Let me take some messages they've lined up right here. I need to get through as many as I can before we call it a morning on the show. Ajayi Olonilua says, it's another day and another drama between the Senate and the IGP. Yesterday, as it became apparent that about 4,000 police rifles have gone missing, almost 4,000, from the police armory. Something really needs to give way. Indeed, indeed. NG from Ejigbo says, they want the telcos to improve services. Please, since NNPCL has been in changing prices, did they make sure we get real litters? The power distribution companies have been increasing prices. Please, did service improve? Questions and more questions. Skidolgado, okay, referring to me, says nothing will come out. When I asked if anything would come out of the probe into that report that we talked about concerning the police assault rifles missing, well, Cisco, you never can tell. This could be that changing point or tipping point. Joseph Menier in Silver State says, posterity will judge our leaders and all those in authority who use sensitive matters as screenplay. We had a series of probes by Senate, yet swept under the carpet. Imagine what the IG and force is telling Nigerians about missing weapons, but they in the business of celebrating checking car insurance. Well, Angel says prices have increased, but I can't blame the telcos because cost of living and running business is astronomical and they must meet up with their own obligations. They are not immune or exempt from what's going on in the country. It's the government that's to blame, telling people to tighten their belts, but they living lavishly on taxpayers' funds. All right, who else is talking to us here? This is coming from Don Kelvin, I believe. Truth is, way before this review was proposed, these organizations already tampered with their tariffs. Call times and durations with the same amounts changed. Data usage and lasting times changed as well. These companies still declared profit last year. Now they jack up tariff about 200%. Good questions. JP says, a lot seems uncoordinated. 4%, what's the nexus with trade facilitation and ease of business? Wasn't the minister in the loop before the customs announcement? As for telecoms, we shouldn't have waited this long to adjust, but service is key. Indeed, service is very, very key. And let me see, this is Abibola from Anthony Village. It says, on the spot analysis on Wednesday is always refreshing. Thanks for telling the government to let the poor breathe. There must be some kind of subsidy in some areas, and all the taxes and levies don't need to come at once if the government is sensitive to the plight of the people that elected them. All right, we need to call it a morning. Thank you for all the messages. Much appreciated. Thank you so very much, Lakunle and Devoe, for taking the time out to join me on Freshly Pressed this morning. You're muted in case you are speaking at the moment, guys.
Oh, thank you so much, Ayo, for having me.
Cheerio.
And it's been a good time
Cheerio.
looking at
All
things
right.
the way it is. Have a good week.
All right, have a good rest of the week, and cheerio to you too, Devoe. Thank you so very much as always. Lagos, it's going to be an amazing Wednesday. I can feel it because you're listening to the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, and the locker room is coming your way at 8:15. Tega will be in for that one. Champions League games yesterday, very entertaining stuff, and a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere.
Ayo, we need to regulate timing so that we can be taking all the stories.